All right. Welcome to the first live stream for the Life Force research team. So, my general idea for this team and these streams, these bonus streams that I will do typically on Fridays at this time, 12 to 2, which is 7 to 9 UTC time, is generally going to be these bonus streams are mostly an exercise of research. So the thing about astrology is, for people to be able to interpret charts and make sense of it for people, it really takes a lot of study and interpretation and detail and math and patience. So that's kind of what these bonus streams are more about, is taking a time, an event, a person, a place, and looking to the astrology and doing a lot of research to try and determine what any meaning or interpretation of it could be. So it's much easier to do things like natal chart, horoscope type of concepts because it's very well known. So almost anyone, even as a general person, can go look at and find their free natal chart. There's so many websites that allow you to do this. Two of my favorites are definitely from the very start of my own research. When I was 14 years old, I used cafeastrology.com to learn the basics. And I'm talking like this website has been up it feels like my whole life. And then the other site that I've used for a really long time to save data, check out other famous people, and all that stuff, I always did on astrotheme.com. And so those two websites are like the main baselines that I used for so long. And now I know that there's just so many other websites too that offer free natal reports and free interpretations. It's really easy to learn about the planets. You just look them up on something like Cafe Astrology. You can learn about the zodiac and the 12 signs very simply, and this gives you a really good basic understanding. Most people have gotten that far, but where they're limited is then taking that really basic information about the planets and the zodiac and applying it so that it makes any freaking sense. Because if you just apply the concepts and the theory or the idea of astrology without really digging into the aspects, the relationships, the balances, and the forces that play a part in it, and take a moment to really use your brain to see and understand what's happening, you get lost. And the idea of something you don't understand. And we do this typically when we have interest in things, right? And it's not just astrology. You learn the basics of how to play a game and you understand the rules. You try to play the game and either you love the game or you don't. Either you want to play the game again and get a group together and do it for real, or you don't. And so with astrology, I've just taken it to such extreme levels, trying to understand all of the different things. That this is why I have to have this like really universal concept of like what the activity levels are, where the placements are, and different things. So on the screen here, you're seeing a couple of different things. So on the left, you're seeing the astrology chart for today. This is current time. This is a sidereal chart, not tropical. And this is really useful for fixed star astrology. However, tropical can be really useful in medical and hermetic understanding of astrology and psychology. Sidereal is really useful if you want to get really nitty gritty about soul and physical detail, because you can use the fixed stars and their different interpretations, as well as the planetary and zodiac constellation details. So sidereal and fixed star astrology really doesn't just look at the whole constellation of the zodiac. It looks at some particular stars within it, and that's why I bring up in a lot of my episodes this list of fixed star constellations or different configurations and stuff, is because it tells me what exactly those stars are. Now, to take that to an extreme level, in Monday's episodes, we actually can look at what age those stars particularly are in what they're made of, what kind of light they give out, and if they are a nova, if they're a recurring nova, because we're finding and picking up a lot of activity out in space. Now, even though that happened a long time ago, just like the sun, you know, when it hits off a CME, it might take days to get here to the surface of Earth. Well, when you're thinking about things happening way far away out in space, like a star nova, eventually those do get here. Not all of them, but a lot of activity is just a lot of energy and particles. Everything out in space is charged. So what I want to talk about today is a really kind of a hot topic, and it's interesting that it's become such a hot topic in these different communities, particularly spiritual communities, to be honest, that are looking at the Schumann resonance because of a couple factors. So I want to talk about the Schumann resonance, and I want to talk about interpreting the Schumann resonance as a basic tool, but it's kind of a unique one. So I'm gonna throw up my screen share and see what comes out, I guess. All right. So here is the Schumann resonance chart from the last today, yesterday, and the day previously. Now, the first thing to really realize about the Schumann resonance is this time strip down here that is in 24 hours, so 0 hour to 24 hours. And Pacific time is 14, we are 14 hours behind. So typically we are 7 or 8 hours behind UTC, which is the general like 0 point. So we'll look at this real quick, and I kind of previewed this earlier this morning, but basically here is the 0 point UTC general time strip. Okay, this is the 0 time reference. Now anything over here is negative hours, so typically I live in Washington State, as you guys know, at -8. Okay, so California, Oregon, Washington, up through part, okay. So what this means is that since I've got to go -14 hours to make this time signature at the bottom of the Schumann resonance to make sense, I'm going to take a sip of water. That means that it is in this strip that the Schumann resonance is being measured from and displayed with. So either China or Russia, the strips that most people are looking at to reference the Schumann resonance is 14 hours behind PST, and that's quite a difference. So when we're looking at this and we're seeing these huge spikes of activity, to read this generally speaking, dark blue, blue, and then light blue are higher frequencies building on itself. So we've got less light, and then the white, red to yellow to green is different frequencies of light and how strong they are when they're being recorded. So the machine records this graph shows spikes, and it is written from the top down. So we can also tell how reading this is kind of multi-layered, because it's a over here on the left side we've got the frequency range that the graph uses. So this graph, when it was originally Schumann, okay, originally created this graph and started using it and stuff, the reason why people are able to kind of got the statement that this is Earth's heartbeat at, I think it's 7 point, Observations of Schumann resonance have been used to track global lightning activity. This is important. Owing to the connection between lightning activity and the Earth's climate, it has been suggested that they may also be used to monitor global temperature variations and variations of water vapor in the upper troposphere. Okay, now it's talking about lightning, it's talking about electricity. So this is what NASA has to say about the Schumann resonance, its description. I'll read it to you. Now, this is the upper troposphere. Okay, that's what that's showing. So there's that image. Real nice, right? Real nice. At any given moment, about 2,000 thunderstorms roll over Earth, producing some 50 flashes of lightning every second. Each lightning burst creates electromagnetic waves that begin to circle around Earth, captured between Earth's surface and a boundary about 60 miles up. Some of the waves, if they have just the right wavelength, combine, increasing in strength, to create a repeating atmospheric heartbeat, known as the Schumann resonance. This resonance provides a useful tool to analyze Earth's weather, its electric environment, and to even help determine what types of atoms and molecules exist in Earth's atmosphere. The waves created by lightning do not look like the up and down waves of the ocean, but they still oscillate, with regions of greater energy and lesser energy. These waves remain trapped inside an atmospheric ceiling created by lower edge of the ionosphere, a part of the atmosphere filled with charged particles, which begins about 60 miles up into the sky. In this case, the sweet spot for resonance requires the wave to be as long or as twice, 3 times as long, etc., as the circumference of Earth. This is an extremely low frequency wave that can be as low as 8 hertz, some 100,000 times lower than the lowest frequency radio waves used to send signals to your AM, FM radio. Who knows what AM and FM radio noise actually is? Good question. As this wave follows around Earth, it hits itself again at the perfect spot such that the crests and troughs are aligned. I like that word, aligned. I use it in astrology a lot. Voila waves acting in resonance with each other to pump up the original signal. While they'd been predicted in 1952, Schumann resonances were first measured reliably in the early 1960s. Since then, scientists have discovered that variations in the Schumann correspond to changes in the seasons, solar activity, activity in Earth's magnetic environment, in water aerosols in the atmosphere, and other earthbound phenomena. Phenomena. All right, phenomena. That's a great word, because if you go to youtube.com and you type in Earth's heartbeat, what do you get? Listen to Earth's heartbeat, Schumann resonance 7.83, the most powerful Schumann resonance, ultra deep naturals, OM vibration, 432 hertz tuning. Earth's heartbeat 8.3, 7.83, 7.83, 7.83 hertz, 7.83 hertz, 7.8. Why is that? Because it's changed a lot since. I'm trying to find a good image. Okay, so fundamental 7.83, second 14.1, 20.3 hertz. Okay, so this is important for people to, realize that these spikes have been happening. So their occurrence rate of happening, I can tell you, people are kind of making it sound like these spikes, are new and have not been as frequent. However, the thing is I know from HeartMath I'm a huge fan of Heart Math Institute because of Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. So even the Heart Math tools give the where is it? I had it up in my other window. I am going to take a moment to grab it because close things I don't need anymore. Here we go. So this is heartmath.org, and it's a nonprofit, and they have organized mass meditations in the past. They have a Schumann's Power Graph on there, Global Consciousness Project, NOAA Solar Wind Speed, and GOES Magnetometer Spectrometer. Okay, so it also gives, just like NOAA, okay, so NOAA does get this information is so public, and organizations like this are using it in science to help people understand what's happening to them and better understand what's happening in the earth, the world, because we can measure these things and they do matter. Why do we know that they matter? Well, a big indication was the 9/11 event. 9/11 really sparked a lot of, I mean, all of us all at once. I mean, we were all there. We were all watching that happen, and science was also watching while that happened, and what they saw was a massive spike like this, and they didn't really realize that it had any connection with human consciousness or emotions or us until that event at 9/11. So since 9/11, scientists have been interested in seeing these spikes occur at times when there is a lot going on in the collective. So it was the first time that they had kind of any use for the Schumann resonance. It kind of sparked interest in the psychology field. It had kind of gotten sidestepped, and kind of fell under. I mean, it was 1960 that it started, and it's been going since, but it was shut down for a while and it turned back on. So there's a lot of like history behind the Schumann resonance, but it hasn't really been important until recently, because there are people out there that are using the Schumann resonance as some kind of proof that the consciousness is in a higher or lower state, and people, myself included, feel these different spikes when they're occurring if we're paying attention. So this can manifest in ways of hearing, ringing in the ears. Also, some people get real dizzy, headaches, things like that. It can also, some people have gotten more of the positive, swing more in the positive instead of the negative, being in more just a spiritual, more connected sense, more grounded to the earth, things of that nature. So it's been both positive and negative. Where you would learn more about the effects and some of the actual science behind this stuff is definitely those institutes like HeartMath, who are at the actual science and they're doing the actual research behind this stuff. When it comes to interpreting the Schumann resonance in your everyday life, it definitely does have an effect on you. It doesn't matter too much that this was recorded in probably Russia. Okay, I'm pretty sure that that's where this strip is coming from. And that says something right there. You know, you question where this stuff is coming from and where it's being measured, because there's not very many places that are measuring the Schumann resonance or have these machines, at least that's known or used publicly. Okay? I think why, you know, this one is so popular is because it's the one that's the most public. It's the most reliable. But I know myself, we're share the upper half of the hemisphere with most of the land, right? I mean, if we go down here, most of the bottom of the earth is water. Okay, there isn't Antarctica. Yes, okay. You can call this land, I don't know. No, because I know I've looked not too long ago, this whole thing was ice. And you know what? It is this big now. That is all that's left. It's there is no more. It's not there anymore. Like so I don't know. Is there land here? I don't know. But I see water. I see ice and I see water. So when we're measuring something in the Schumann resonance from over here, to say that that portion of the atmosphere is feeling the effects from this activity, yeah, I do. Lightning, there we go. So this is where lightning becomes really interesting to look at and to watch in certain areas. Right now, there's a lot of lightning going on here, wherever this is showing up. Okay. So this is where I then have to take a moment to include so forgive me. I've got to find that little video that I didn't find earlier. But I know where not to look. So we're gonna look down here. Nope. It's in one of these playlists. I know it is. Ben, where is it at? Where is it? I need those experiments. Oh, this is daily. This is not what I want. I could spend all day there in there. Ah. Okay. I know it's in here. So I'm going to find it, and then I will hit play, and I will be quiet, and it should hopefully record the audio. There we go.
The reverse piezoelectric effects. This is capacitance, loading and unloading, and this is what we've been showing in the lab. I wish we could supplement their paper with Billy's plasma experiments because they show exactly what they are saying, what we said half a decade ago. The cracks or faults are the attractive pathways for the current. The material in there will be affected. Billy did many experiments with water, even showing how it will defy gravity and follow the rules of the current instead, pushing up from below. Their paper is free to read, by the way, open source, and veteran observers, a lot of it's going to feel like you are reading a description of Billy's plasma lab work. But we cannot forget, it's not just the electric potential and induction. The magnetic fields at L-shell levels interact with the crust. These are what reverberate in low frequency during geomagnetic storms. We do indeed have the induction in the crust, which again seems to want to follow those fault pathways, but we also have the global electric circuit, modulated strongly by space weather, cosmic rays, and the ionosphere above. And that can be what charges up the crust as well, where of course it's going to work the water, iron, other metals, crystals, and even neutral materials due to the electromagnetokinetic forcing perpendicular to both the current and the resulting fields. What this does is open the door for all those other pathways to ground, and all those other modulators of the ionosphere and global electric circuit, beyond just the solar protons. And it favors the papers in the past suggesting as much. You can find links to all the papers we showed you here today, the new one in Nature, our one that was refused to even have the chance of peer review, both of our peer-reviewed and accepted papers on this topic, and even that one I said got ignored in between. I'll toss the link to the 2016 update in there as well. The race is on for the science world to look at those different pathways and the space weather that affects them. The correlations are astounding no matter where you look. For example, most of the solar polar fields in megaquake data kind of looks like this. They hit the peaks and the reversals across the central neutral baseline.
Whoa.
With Earth's magnetic field weakening during the ongoing magnetic excursion, some aspects of space weather may become less effective in these ways, like the pathway along the magnetic L-shell fields. But ionospheric modulation by space weather is only going to increase as the magnetosphere weakens, which suggests that as the planetary shield diminishes, the sun will gain more and more control over the electric potential above the ground and in the ground, and therefore more control over megaquakes.
Okay. So, now we should be a little bit more in an understanding to look at this graph and know that it does play a part in this thing. And what it's measuring is Earth's extremely low frequency field based upon electric, usually lightning, plasma activity, because that's what lightning is plasma, lighting up and charging within our Earth's crust. How does it do that? Well, that particular video, that short, didn't say was that the Earth's crust has a bunch of olivine in it. So most of those experiments he was referencing include olivine. Well, what's olivine? The mineral olivine is magnesium iron silicate with that's a type of nososilicate or orthosilicate. Yeah. The primary component of Earth's upper mantle. It is a common mineral in Earth's subsurface, but weathers quickly on the surface. The primary component of Earth's upper mantle. Okay? Mantle. Inner core, outer core, mantle. Okay? So the primary component of the upper mantle, edge of it, but the closer to the surface that olivine is found, the more kind of eroded and stuff that it gets. But so when lightning and things occur on the surface of the planet, which has got a bunch of cracks and crevices in it, we're finding that there's like massive amounts of tunnels, and just we think of the Earth's crust as, like, because of these pictures, like this little thin portion, but it's miles. Okay, so density, radius, it's kind of an interesting chart. Okay, here we go. All right, so there you go. Upper mantle, number 3, this guy. And it's green even, just like the olivine. Handy dandy. Handy dandy. Okay, so most of this crust is olivine. That's what it said. Right? The primary component of Earth's upper mantle. Now, that's super important to the relevance of those experiments that were being shown in the video. So let's go back to it. The first one, this guy, right here, 604.
The cracks or faults are the...
So what this is what you're looking at right now is electricity being plugged into this rock that has cracks and stuff in it. This is water with a little bit of like special dye in it to make it look green and glow. And it literally, the electricity pulls the water to it. So the water is attracted to the electricity, first of all. And then second of all, the electricity starts to go deeper into this rock and use the water to fill the cracks. Watch this. Look at that. Okay, there's better, higher definitions videos of this on his channel that I will find, and I will eventually link in the video description of this clip on YouTube. So why I'm bringing this up though is because it's the Schumann Resonance is being used as a consciousness tool by a lot of people. Now this is a record of July, so this was is last month, and it looks like the last week of June as well. So we had a spike on the 20th of July, but since the 14th, like, we haven't really seen a spike like these in a while. So again, these occur. So let's bring in astrology here, and activity of these days, because I think we'll find a correlation between them. And I have before, so I'm pretty confident that. And I haven't done this. This is a live thing. So what I'm going to do for this episode is to bring these Schumann resonance spikes and try to find out what other activity was going on with the sun and the earth that might reflect some of this, and put it together and see what we find. So the first spike was, or the most recent spike, let's do the big, yeah, and this was a pretty big spike. I mean, it goes, so this green line that's pretty much this one is like there pretty much all the time. That's that 8.73 or 7.83 hertz. That line's pretty much always there. That's why it's kind of called Earth's heartbeat. It's like it doesn't really, there's no break in it. And these other lines are starting to show and stay more often at 12 and 20, and even ones starting to kind of form and be there pretty consistently at about between 24 and 28 hertz. Now this is interesting because we can relate this to our bodies before we get into the astrology. There's one more part to this, actually. So okay, so this is it right here. In the past 30 years, the concern that daily exposure to extremely low frequency magnetic fields, 1 to 300 hertz, might be harmful to human health. Cancer, neurobehavior disturbances has been the object of debate and has become a public health concern. That's primarily why I am also doing this episode right now, is to kind of try to put this together and how people are being affected. Here's the thing, though, is that every okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. I, again, will link, I do have source articles, so just not here, easy to do live, and I should have prepared them, but I will leave some more information below. But one of the reasons why I'm doing this live and to do the stream is to bring some awareness to it, that there is some overall concern about whether this is healthy or not for us. Now, even though we as humans have our own energy field and our own magnetic field. The magnetic field has a lot to do with the heart, and we can the Heart Math Institute has done a lot of the research to prove that the Earth puts off a magnetic field that can be felt and also interact with the humans. And if we look at, you know, the video that we were just watching, I don't know where it went. Anyways, it's all linked together. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this stream and also create the community is to kind of get those who are like-minded, scientific, to actually take this stuff and research it appropriately. So let's get into the astrology, because I wasn't able to find the anything on what I wanted to talk about right off the bat. And that's the thing, is it's not, the information isn't easy to find because there's not a lot of science that's going on about it. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo. There's a lot of like swimming through people's interpretation or people's opinions about things without being fully educated about what they're even looking at and what it is that's being measured. And so, yeah, nitty gritty. Okay, and see, now we're gonna need to translate this into UTC. So, nine. Just to make my life easy. And 5 p.m. Okay, so we're looking for sun activity between 9 and 5 p.m. on the 13th. 13th. So 09, and I'll say 16. All search. Corona hole. Corona hole. That's all. So that's all pointing towards like probably wind speed. Yeah. I don't know much about these guys. What's this? This is bubbles and farts down here. We did have an A 3.4 flash happen at 10:40. 10:40. That's 10 a.m. 10:40 a.m. flare A 3.4. Flares can get to us pretty quick. Speed of light, super fast. In a couple minutes. So there's that, and we also have this really large corona hole here too. So we'll check the other ones while we're here, and I'm just going to take the start of this and the end of this for this check. So we're looking at 8:12, begins at 20 p.m. 3 a.m. on 8:30. No, 12. To 9 a.m. 4 p.m. Okay. So this is what we're looking for go back to the event screen here. Again, 3 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the 12th. We'll go 17. Okay. So this is a larger window, so we got some more activity. But this is that eruption that I know that I felt at the time that it occurred. So this is already, this eruption that's being mentioned is 333, which I'll invite you to come join my Patreon for 333 a month if you're interested in. That's how we can really start to build these teams. It's not gonna be nice to me, is it? Oh, here's the Life Force team. That's the stream that I'm doing right now. Is concerned with medical astrology, Hermetic, holistic, esoteric astrology. You also get access to my self-healing database and different features on our live chat room. So we can actually go and dig into this and be personal and share stuff and have a private community to really be able to do so and dig into this research. Because it's new stuff. There's no like direct answers to anything. That's why this is called universal astrology. Is we're taking all the bits and parts and pieces of both science, astrology, and astronomy and trying to make sense of this so that the human collective and science can kind of start to really understand this in a way that's useful, so that we can better protect ourselves, be better aware of what we can do in our own personal lives, and bring attention to the fact that these tools are so widely available and public. So if you think you feel something, or you have a friend or a family member who is really struggling and you know that solar activity is going on, they can take that information to their doctor and start talking about it. Like, that's eventually where we really need to be. I think getting space weather news is, like, along with our climate weather channel needs to be updated, as well as, like, the whole weather channel forecast. Talk about fake news. My goodness, those guys do not know anything about real weather. They're only including about 1/10 of what science knows about actual weather and climate on the planet. But they don't talk about that. They don't use that. They just make up a bunch of forecasting stuff for each city and population, smile and say, have a nice day. And that's just, for me, not good enough. These tools, these are good enough, but they need to be put to use publicly for public awareness and health concerns, so that people can actually start making sense of their health issues, particularly the doctors. Doctors have no idea about space weather. They have no idea about the Schumann Resonance. Why would they? When it's not publicly known information or useful. However, I can tell you right now that there's proven medical reason to be concerned about large spikes in the human resonance and large effects, especially heart concerns for solar flares and solar activity. When larger events and solar storms occur and stuff, it can really mess with people. So this is why I feel like this stream and me exploring this stuff with astrology is useful, because it is astrology that kind of provides a lens to the larger picture about what's going on. So before we even go into the charts, let's just look at the 12th. At 2 a.m. We'll say 3 a.m. Okay. So interesting factor already, just by kind of coming out, is this Mercury, Jupiter, Pluto situation. Mercury is hidden from these effects, but we can see how the sun is kind of smooshed. I feel like I should be realistic in size for the sake of this. So I'm also going to turn stars on so they're clickable. This is an orange giant. Okay. Another orange giant. What I'm doing is just looking for known alignment options over here with Capricorn, but I'm not seeing any. Again, this is live research, so it's not what I'm also looking for is things like novas or any of that stuff. Let me make sure I have those settings on. Here we go. Comets, spacecraft, minor objects. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now the fun starts. Okay, so we are in a realistic view. What this means is that instead of all the planets looking pretty like they normally do, they're in real size, and we can better see their orbits and what they're actually doing. So we can see that some things like comets are coming in and flying in from outer space and going new directions and go away. They kind of like come in and go woo and go out different directions. And as they do so, comets are usually like made of like these strange ice particles. So it's kind of crazy that they like come in flying in at us, and then they get close to our sun and they start to like melt and burn away. They leave a trail, and then they like spark back off into a different direction than which they came. Comets are really cool. And if you look into like the meaning of comets in astrology, they usually forecast, certain ones can forecast certain events if they happen at certain times of the year. So that's kind of an interesting aspect to look at. But that's not what we're looking at right now. What I'm still concerned with right now is the Schumann Resonance and any maybe events or objects or novas, things of that nature that might be in alignment with the sun. And I look at that because just like I feel like the planets are connected and a part of us living, since we are living on a planet, that the sun also has that same kind of relationship within the galaxy to other stars. So if we consider Earth a living thing, then I would consider also the sun a living being. And so when I consider the sun a living being, then I say, okay, well then all suns are in a stage of life, just like we are. This is on a much larger scale, much larger scale, of course. But if the sun then has life, that means that then all the other suns have life. And since I'm an astrologer, that's honestly the way that I think about things. So now we have this like massive light network of stars at different lifetimes. And then on a even larger scale, then we have like the galactic centers and holes and crazy stuff with galaxies. So, yeah, that's kind of like our consciousness limit right now, is just like the huge network of life that is occurring. We seem like these little, we're these like little tiny earthling beings on this little tiny spinning planet, but we are alive. And that's the thing, is we're alive, and we're living on a living planet in a living system with a living sun that may or may not be a reoccurring nova sun yet to see. And that's just a sign of life in this world. So in this world, the sun giving off a flare maybe it's a kind of communication or a kind of light system in which the stars or nearby systems in which it's connected to, particularly those the nearest suns to them, if we're looking at it kind of in that respect, right? You would think that the closer the stars that are closest to us would maybe have at least a sooner effect. But then we talk about lifespan. So we live, a good, between 80 and 100 spins around this living ball of star stuff. The Earth's lifespan is about the Earth has been, we think the Earth is about 4.8 something billion years old, and we think that Earth is about halfway through its lifespan as a planet. Our best guess that science has. And the sun, we don't quite know particularly all the details of that, but we do think that we know enough about our sun to have some kind of guess about what kind of star it is. But we may be wrong about that. We'll see. I can't really comment on it. Sun at this very moment is kind of trying to figure that stuff out exactly. As an astrologer, I definitely do think that the suns and the light within our galaxy has a way of communicating, just like the planets share a system in which they rotate around within and share. They pass each other. I mean, how do they not have a relationship when they're this close together? Need I remind you of the screen that we shared this morning of and the last couple of days, honestly, about the Mars being passed up by both Venus and Jupiter. Mars was ahead. It was ahead, and they were all in July, all close together. And lining up and kind of doing a squishy thing. Just as, look at that NK kind of coming in at the back end. That's a comet. So, yeah, I think these are relationships interacting as spheres, as planetary, spheres. So when we look at their activity, in respect to the activity that we have here on Earth, like Schumann Resonance spikes and earthquakes, yeah. So we never did get up the chart for what we're talking about. I should have done this first, honestly. So sorry. So sorry. Okay. So let's do... No, we can do it in our time zone since I calculated it. So now you can see the current chart in respect to these Schumann spikes that we're talking about, and kind of detail them yourself. Immediately what I see is Pluto square Mars. Pisces at 28, which is trine to the Sun at 26 degrees Cancer, with Mercury really, really close by. Super close by. Let's take a look at Helio, though. This is a sun-centered chart. Did we change? That wasn't much of a change. There we go. There we go. So in Helio, we have a perfect square, the Earth to Venus, and the Earth to the house cusp. Not too concerned about that. And Venus and Chiron at 11. I remember looking at this chart at a couple days ago, and they were at perfect at 11. What was that for, though? this flare. And what was the eruption? 333. That's right. So this was on 8/12. We had a solar eruption at 3:33 a.m. This is UTC. So that was felt at 8 p.m. Now I felt it, and I checked this at about 10. So between 8 and 10 p.m. I felt, you know, that I checked that night. I checked this, and I had a universal astrology episode on yesterday talking about that. So here's the kind of stuff that definitely is going to show up in the Schumann resonance and play a part here, because it's a plasma universe. Okay, it's a plasma universe, and we're talking about electricity. You know, that's where it's at. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a way to backtrack in time to really see and track lightning. I can track lightning in real time. So, like, if we were having a spike in real time right now, I would go check the live lightning maps. But this isn't these huge spikes aren't happening in real time, so I can't do that. But this is the kind of stuff that we need to look at, is the weather and lightning and what's happening in the plasma universe, because that's where this stuff is happening, and it affects the deepest parts of our crust and the upper mantle of Earth. Now, theory being that in these areas there potentially could be a lot of movement going on under and being given and charged up. So when we have lightning and solar wind and particles and storms that are really coming into the atmosphere and charging up and colliding with and combining in the higher realms and rates of things, to say that it goes deep is not good enough. It goes deep into the earth, and it definitely does affect our human bodies as well. Not by being hit by lightning, but by charging up the earth crust itself underneath and potentially moving around water and stuff. I mean, look at this. It literally sucks the water up. Forget about gravity, he says. Because you send a charge up here, and it literally, the water just jumps up into it and starts filling any cracks and stones within this thing. And that's not even the whole, the experiment and stuff. So, I've gone on for like an hour about this stuff, and I haven't even looked to see what earthquakes might have occurred at that time. Now it's 13th. This isn't gonna tell me. Gosh darn. You wait too long and they don't, they take him down. 6.0, 8:12, hour 17:13. What was our hours in UT time? (3 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, later in that day, there was also the 6.0, 66 km. In Tanzania. Which I looked at the other day in another video, for those who have been following along. Where is that? Where is that? Right here. Okay. There it is. And you guys, I'm going to go to my stream real quick and turn off oh, I know what I need to do. Okay, so now you guys will be able to see that, and I'm going to go to the charts. And this was occurring on 8/12/330. Just for funsies. All right. This is the Helio Sun-centered August 12th, 3:33 a.m. when a solar eruption happened off the bottom half of the sun, or bottom portion of the sun. You can see it on my Twitter. You can see it on other videos. I'll go to my Twitter and I'll show you what I'm talking about real quick. Come on, profile. Alright, so this is the solar eruption itself. So that whole chunk left off the sun. Some of it came back down. Some of it left. So we've got some just eruption chunky stuff that was playing around and left off. Now, mind you, the size of Earth is like, it's not very big. Like, it's not big versus the sun, like at all. Earth's tiny. So that's what we're looking at. The chart for. Now, after that occurred, later that day, we had an earthquake at hour 17. So this is what the chart looked like at hour 3:30. So when the earthquake happened over here, there's no line here at the moment, right? But where's the earth line? Or the sun line? There it is, right here. Boom. So this is the sun's path. Okay, so somewhere along this is where the Earth travels as we spin around it, and we spin in our own like ecliptic spin. So this is where the sun is planning to travel across. But this is when the earthquake happened at hour 17. And this is where the earthquake occurred. Okay, so what are these lines? The green one is Venus. The purple one is either Chiron or Uranus. And then we also have the North Node. Yeah. Maybe Jupiter too. Jupiter. Okay, so that's Jupiter, the North Node, and Uranus. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, is a gas planet. The traditional astrology behind Jupiter is Zeus. He's the character of Zeus, god of lightning. Okay, And then Uranus is kind of the weirdo eccentric, and he even his symbol, it's kind of joked in astrology that even the symbol of Uranus kind of looks like a satellite or a spaceship or an antenna of some kind. So Uranus is eccentric. Uranus is known for quick and abrupt, forceful change. And then Venus, and we've got the heart of Venus. So these are heart lines. It has very much to do with, the harmony of both yin and yang energies coming together. And just like, compassion and falling in love with someone can be totally amazing, having a heartbreak is the most devastating thing that can happen to some people, is breakups and things like that, relationships. So this is calling in, the lines of force that are really occurring over this area of land at this portion of time in relation to being charged up by Earth's path earlier in the day, along with that eruption. 3 to 17 hours difference, that's a 14-hour difference. So there's just some spiritual, synchronicity lining up that we are looking at a 14-hour difference in the chart of Schumann resonance to our time here on Earth. So the Schumann resonance chart that we've been looking at for the course of this video is being measured here, and then we have to interpret the time that it happens to the time that this happens. So it's really interesting stuff, guys. But I think that kind of gives people probably more information than they really even were bargained for by watching this episode about the Schumann resonance, and how included everything has to be to really make sense of the Schumann resonance. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm not shunning the use of looking at the Schumann resonance for your spiritual or health life. We should be looking at the Schumann resonance, but the perspective of looking at the Schumann resonance should come from a wider understanding about what exactly you're looking at, right? Personal opinion, I know, but I just want to say thank you for watching, and hoping you're having an awesome day and time. And if you want to get more involved with the stream, watch me live. And I guess I have one more thing to check. Aha. So, I did feel a little bit of a tremble, but I wasn't sure if it was anything. We'll take a look at this just because it's just in. So it was a 3.3 in Sandpoint, Alaska. It was only 65 kilometers deep. That was at 11. Then we've got another 3.1 at 82 kilometers at hour 5. Closer still, this is in Chinook, Alaska, at 2.5. This was much deeper at 208 kilometers. Then actually near the land of Alaska, we've had a 2.6 at 15. That's very surface at in Primrose, Alaska, and a 2.6 at hour 6. There was also another one closer to the surface at 50. In the United States, we had a 2.8 in Idaho, 3.4 in Idaho, 2.7 in Idaho. So, yeah, there's always these smaller quakes and stuff going on. I don't see any that are, larger than 4 at the moment, but they are pretty close to the surface. So, yeah, we're on watch, definitely. Could be in the works soon. Alright, guys. thank you for watching and participating. If you want to get involved, check out Patreon. There's lots of stuff over there. And special thanks to my friends for supporting me this week as I start streaming for the first time ever. And I will be I would be with a webcam for next week's episode. So big shout out and thank you for all the support, everybody. Much love.